Hi, good evening. My name is Jay Rothman, and welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. Welcome back. Again, my name is Jay Rothman. I'm the host of the show. I would like to introduce tonight special guest Rosie Mercado coming in from Los Angeles, California. We have Evis Love Heath, the man of the land from down under. He calls Australia home. Evis Love. Jeff Espanol, today he calls Nashville, Tennessee home. Welcome. And of course, Mr. Josh Richard coming in from somewhere in the Americas, south of North America. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jay.
Hey. Thank you, my brother. Great to have a divine feminine in the house with Rosie.
Thank you. It's so nice to be surrounded by some wonderful men. Interesting to be able to chat with you today. I'm so looking forward to it.
Right? This is going to be fun.
Well, before we get into I want to take a moment to share who Rosie Mercado is for those of you that may not know her. But before I go there, I would like to take a moment to welcome our viewers and listeners. If you are live with us, thank you so much for joining us. If you catch us on replay, we showed up right on time. If you hear something that you like or love, with love, please tap your love button on your monitor and light us up so that we can elevate and levitate to the next level. Also, if you have any questions or comments for Rosie or for Ev, Jeff, Josh, or myself, you know how to do it. Just drop it down in the comments. We'll do our best to respond to any and all questions that come through. Tonight, before we get into the topic, which is infidelity or infidelities in relationships, I want to just take a moment to welcome Rosie to the show. For those of you that you may recognize her, she's been on Dr. Phil. She's been on Ricky Lake, I think is her name. The Ricky Lake.
Go, Ricky.
Rosie's also a TV personality. She has been features on a couple of shows. The Doctors, another show, something called what's the other show, Rosie? The Fall?
Face the Truth, produced by Dr. Phil. And then I just was on CNN Latino. We do it English and Spanish here. So proud of that.
Wow. Beautiful. Rosie is also an author of a book called The Girl with Self-Esteem Issues. And it's available on Amazon booksellers, maybe even on other booksellers. What else do we want to talk about? Rosie's also fitness. She's also a model. She shares her life journey and her healing journey and getting her health and wellness back on track in a very public way, the way us men do it as well today. And so without further ado, Rosie Mercado, welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live.
Hey, beso. Kisses for all of you guys. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I'm so excited because I think it's wonderful to be able to sit in a group with wonderful men with different experiences, different ages, and that ethnic background. Being Latina, there are so many things that I learned differently. So it's wonderful to be able to have that crossover conversation. And even me, myself, at my age, have aha moments because I consider myself always a student, always wanting to learn and always wanting to just better understand and come from a place of love. Because when I could come from that place of love, then I could grow as a human being.
Beautiful. Love that. Rosie, when we got together, we met you in a production meeting on Tuesday. We basically opened it up to you and gave you carte blanche and said, what do you think? What topic's coming forward for you? And in a moment, you went right to, I think let's go into relationships and talk about a topic that is almost taboo. People don't really kind of bring forward this topic about infidelities because either we are embarrassed because we were on the receiving end or because we were the giving, either the victim or the perpetrator of infidelities. And so we all agreed. I've been wanting to do this topic for some time now, and it's always gotten lower shelf. So it's just beautiful that you come in as a special guest this evening, and here we are. We're going to jump into infidelities. I'm going to invite Evis Love to warm us up and kick the show off tonight. sharing with us your perspective on this topic, and then we'll go from there. Ed,
Beautiful, brother, and great opening. And thanks again, sister. Like I said, it's great to have a divine feminine back in the house here at Real Men Real Talk Live. And as always, our brothers and sisters on the other side of the pond. But if you're here in the land down under, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We look forward to diving deep tonight. And one thing for me, when we talked a little bit about this through the week, particularly on the discussion in itself of infidelity, you know, I opened up in a video this morning with some awareness that I captured through the week in not actually being aware that it was Valentine's Day last week. And for me, you know, I'm going by the name of Ever's Love. It was a little bit emotional for me for the first couple of days at the start of the week. So I had to dive in deep, as you know, man of the land. I'm a man. I get out in nature and get those downloads and sat with some of those emotions and feelings that I was carrying probably through a lot of relationships within my life unconsciously. Now, growing up as a young fella, I've talked a little bit about my story, and, you know, I wasn't given probably the best role model, and to see a particular relationship within my life of my parents where I really started to become, you know, introduced to this idea of infidelity. You know, unfortunately, I see my dad do it quite a few times and love the man to death, but it wasn't a particular behavior that was going to be a part of my life. So I always said to myself when I was growing up that if I don't do that, then I'm going to be okay. Now, I didn't experience that I was going to be on the other end or the other side of that. And when it did happen to me in previous relationship, it's really cut the wound, I would say, or the scars within to that heart space that, like I said at the start of the week, I've had guards up around me now protecting myself. You know, so many of us, we carry these guards throughout our life, whether it be through infidelity, whether it be through some of the shame, pain, or guilt that we actually carry on within these relationships. And until we really become aware of it, acknowledge it, and brothers and sisters, own it, then we can't move forward on this beautiful journey. You know, I help a lot of people on their journeys, and a lot of it's based around that health, fitness, and wellness, as my brothers and sisters know. But it's so too often that we still see out in the collective this idea of infidelity. My thing is, as many of you know, I do a lot of practice within the quantum world, and I believe that we live in a mirror consciousness. Ask yourself, my brothers and sisters, why does this happen to me in my life? Why didn't I realize it was Valentine's Day last week? What was the mirror, the reflection of an unconscious pattern, signature, or behavior projecting into my heart space that now I can actually do the work to allow it to open? Now, like I said on this morning's video, our heart may be broken plenty of times, but that is so it can open eventually. So many of us carry around, like these, I said, these scars and these wounds. And I know tonight on our show, as we dive in at Real Men Real Talk Live, and with this beautiful divine feminine energy, we're going to be able to do some healing here. So I'm looking really forward to diving in deep with our special co-host, Rosie. So I look forward to it, sister.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. You know, it's wonderful that you said, I really feel that sometimes we're not aware, but life is mirroring back at us. And the things that we don't like, that's something that we have to work within ourselves. So I really feel, if you're a woman listening right now and you're like, why do I keep attracting the same man? Why do they cheat over and over and over again? And I found myself 3 marriages, 3 divorces. Being Latina, that's not something that's accepted or tolerated. I mean, you get married for life. It's not something, regardless of what happens, you stick to your marriage, you stick it through. And for me, one of the toughest things that I had to learn is that I wasn't going to accept abuse, adultery, or addiction. That's just something that when those things ever happened, it was a no for me. I checked out. But as the first moment hit that I was cheated on, my world came crumbling down, because the difference of is I had parents that were culturally strong and loved me, and they had a healthy relationship, and they got married when they were 19, and they built a business together, and they had a family, and it was such a healthy environment. And I really feel that no human being gets married to later get divorced, or gets married to hurt another human being. I think things happen along the way. But one thing that I learned after a couple divorces and a couple infidelities is, number one, their infidelity is not my responsibility. Number two, that is not for me to say they did this because of me. That was their personal choice. It took so much hard work to even verbalize. And three, I really had to work around the shame of just saying that I had been cheated on, and even more so that I had gone through divorce. How do you say that? How do you just get up and say that? There was a lot of breathing. There was a lot of moments of anxiety. There was a lot of overeating. There was a lot of moments that I jumped from one relationship to the next that I didn't find out until 3 divorces later, that I didn't know how to be by myself. I was scared of being alone. And I had to deal with that. And what happens is, when you jump from one to the next, it's just one more heartbreak that comes along the way that you're not getting ready for. And I think the biggest thing that I learned is that I carried so much shame that reflected in my body, and reflected in the way that I would hide, and reflected in the way that I would eat, and also reflected in the men that I attracted into my life. Because I was ashamed of myself, they were ashamed of being with me. And they reflected that back. And that was painful for me to even verbalize, or to stand up to and say, I have to take responsibility. And I have to not say, this happened several times. The infidelity, I understand. But the same mistake, at some point, I had to take personal responsibility of saying, I'm attracting the same person into my life. There's something going on, and that's on me.
Beautiful, sister.
That's a tough one for a lot of people to accept. I mean,
It's a tough one.
But the healing is on the other side of that level of responsibility, and that level of, we're taking control of our lives again.
And I really feel that the taking control, it didn't happen overnight. And I also learned that feelings are meant to be felt. You have to allow time to mourn the relationship. You have to allow time to mourn that no longer is. Accept it. It takes time, but then also understand that there might be answers that you will never get. Why me? Why did he cheat? What did I do? I didn't deserve that. I gave 100%. He said, till death do us part. What happened? And I wasn't raised that way. There's so many things that came up. And at the end of the day, I only have control over my emotions, my thoughts, my actions. I have no control over another human being. And that was a tough pill to swallow. But in paying attention to the dark side, to the things that I didn't want to acknowledge, was the work that I had to do that took years and years to be able to do the work consistently, understand the triggers, understand the voice in the back of my head, and really come to terms of what makes me happy, and that why they cheated on me was no longer worth my attention. What was really worth my attention is what makes me happy, who am I, and what is my value? What am I willing to accept in life? And what am I willing to trade for that? Because we're always trading something for that. If you're giving your time and you're not getting something back, time to pay attention. If someone cheats on you and you allow them to stay, then you're teaching them how to treat you. So there's just so many lessons that came with infidelity, and also understanding that they were in pain. They were human beings in pain.
Beautiful, Rosie.
Hey, Jay, you're muted.
Go on,
Rosie,
Jeff.
Rosie, Jeannie Cass asked the question, Rosie, what was going on that you were attracting that type of man? And she then goes right to the root. What was the solution?
So what was going on? So when I went through my 3 marriages and my 3 divorces, at each moment, I was, number one, tolerating physical and emotional abuse because I was afraid of the divorce. I was overeating because of my anxieties. In each of those relationships, I lost another piece of myself. I was giving everything. I wasn't paying attention to the red flags. There were no boundaries. All boundaries were broken. Anything that they did, I tolerated because I was not going to get divorced again until it got to the point where they said, well, if you have no boundaries, then I could go ahead and cheat. And it wasn't, and some out of pain and others for whatever reason in that moment. But I had no boundaries. I had no self-respect. I had no self-love. And that was reflected back at me because, number one, when you love someone, you just don't go there. There's a boundary that you just do not cross when you genuinely love someone. When someone loves you and respects you enough, they will tell you this relationship is no longer working. We must part ways. They will do it respectfully. They'll do it with a set of values and standards. Two, with the overeating, I wasn't taking care of myself. That was me coping with the anxieties, the angers, me coping with everything that was coming up. And then what happened when I was dealing with that is that I was being abused because I was fat, I was ugly, I was no longer valuable because I had gone through a previous divorce. I was not worthy of someone's attention. And I was just, oh my God, I remember the words. I was a fat bitch. I was a fat bitch that who would ever want me. So I was lucky to have them. And when that happened, there's a sense of us that we start believing those stories. And I started believing that about myself. And I started holding on even more. So I feel that it really comes down to a lack of self-respect, self-love, not paying attention to your own boundaries. And do you have common values? I didn't pay attention to the common values. I would be with anybody who would give me attention. A little bit of their attention for me was like, they love me. If they said that I was beautiful, that equal to love, any little attention. Because I didn't give myself that attention. I didn't give that self. I didn't date myself. I didn't understand what that was. The solution was, when I say no is no, my voice matters. When I say we do not cross this boundary and you do not call me names, no means no. That's a boundary you do not cross. That was a big one for me. I needed to learn to love my body, take care of it. It wasn't about being a certain size. It was about, as I dropped the weight, it was like I'm peeling layers of pain off that I was holding on to. Layers of pain that I was letting go. And then finding myself, knowing who I was, because in each of those relationships, like I said, I lost a part of me and I didn't know who I was. It was about finding myself. That was the solution to bring me now at the age of 40, a new mom, and attracting a healthy relationship after being several years by myself and getting to know who I was.
Rosie, I just want to take a moment here just to invite you to take a nice deep breath in and just pause. You shared some parts of your past that I know when we go back, it's almost like we're bringing it right back. It's almost like it's present. We feel it at the cellular level, and and it's not easy what you just shared with us in this segment. And I just want to take a moment to honor you and respect you.
Thank you.
And invite you just to pause for a moment and just take it in, because what I know, I believe that this is the truth, which is that's how it was. That's not who you are today.
No.
And you've come a long way. And, you're not alone, Rosie. I believe almost every person, every adult has been touched by infidelities, either on the receiving or the giving end. And, I would like to just say this, and then I'm going to open it up to Mr. Fasano, who has been such a great listener this evening, because I want to hear your perspective. We could spend 2 hours in this topic because there's so many different angles to explore together. But I will say this, is that I don't believe personally that there's bad people. People that cheat there's no thing as good people and bad people. We just are people that make good and bad choices. And the choices that we make when we're deciding to take a risk and hurt the person that we profess to love is not because we don't love them, but it's because we don't love ourselves. As a man that's been engaged in infidelities in my past relationship, I can tell you that it wasn't because there was a lack of love for somebody else. It was because there was a lack of love for the self. And that self is, when they say cheaters will be cheaters, and I looked online, I was looking at some statistics today. The number was absurd, something like 354% chance that a cheater will cheat again. But what that statistic didn't talk about was that it's possible that you can change. But it's not because you just leave that relationship and you go into the next one and you start the patterns all over. It's when you do the type of healing work that you did as a receiver of infidelities, the perpetrator can also do the healing and can change. But it takes courage, it takes commitment, and but it's possible. So there's where the hope is. It's just because someone has been a cheater, it doesn't have to define who they are, like another label, like a mental health label as well. It doesn't have to define who we are. It just is how we showed up. But it's possible to heal on both ends of the spectrum. Mr. Fasano, what are you making about all this tonight?
Rosie opened up a lot of doors that we could sit here and talk about for about 2 hours, like you said. Doesn't it? I mean, we've done so many of these, so many shows, and it still all comes down to loving, honoring, and valuing yourself. That's all it comes down to. But the willingness to look into the mirror. We've done 40 shows here and in my life. My question is we can hear all the stories about all of this and all of your stories about infidelity, being cheated on, cheating on people. What is your story? And you can keep on telling the story. But the most important part is, are you really willing to look into the mirror and let go of you being some sort of victim in all of this? It is so important to do that, to ask yourself, am I willing to look into the mirror? Why am I continually attracting this type of person, creating this type of relationship, and the same old repeats over and over again? If it keeps on repeating over and over again, that's the universe asking you to look into the mirror. That's the universe is asking you to go within, take a pause, let go of your story and say, this has to do with me. How much do I love, honor, and value me? How much do I love, honor, and value me? And do I even know what that means? And can I even do it? It is taking me. And Rosie, this is so cool that you're 40. I remember being 40. And that has been my biggest challenge in life. My biggest challenge in life was to love, honor, and value me, because I was never, ever shown that in my life. So then I had to look in the mirror and go within and do the work to find out my value, my truth, my meaning, my purpose, my love, not to anyone else, not to Josh or Rosie or Evis or Jay, but to me. And once I started to understand that, and I could look in the mirror and start loving me and honoring me, that's when my relationship shifted with myself. And then once that began to shift, my relationship shifts outside of myself, that I could now choose. Like Rosie just said, oh, somebody paid attention to me. They must love me. There must be something that they see in me. I wonder what that is. And then you latch on to that person. And then what you're really doing is, oh, I'm gaining my value of who I am outside of myself from someone else. And then you could feel that energetic attachment to that person. And that's when it all gets convoluted. And that's when it's not a soul-to-soul connection. It's not a connection at all. It's just an attachment looking outside of yourself to be validated by someone or something. And you don't even know what they're even valuing in you when they see you.
I feel that what you just said right there, and understanding just that moment when someone would see something in me. I'm beautiful. He said, I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's like, hello, girl, you got to learn to talk to yourself every single morning. I'm beautiful. I'm powerful. My voice matters. You know, I have purpose in life. And I needed to learn to speak these truths until they became my reality, because the anxieties of coming out of a relationship or a divorce after infidelity or several divorces, and learning to be by myself with my voice, with my thoughts, and the unknown. For me, I literally would have panic attacks where I would have to sit down. I had to breathe it through, really breathe it through, and just tell myself, you're going to be okay. This will pass. I love you, and I let you go with love. And that for me was huge, to be able to, every single time that I would feel like crying, I would cry. And then I would say, I love you, and I let you go with love. Why it happened, it didn't matter. Where it happened, it didn't matter. Why I was where I was, it didn't matter. Now it was about, all right, I need to take control of these emotions. I need to direct them. I need to bring myself back to this calmness and let it go with love, so I could allow the healing process in my spirit, my soul, and my mind to start little by little, step by step, day by day. And I promise you that when you are consistent with that, you will start paying attention, because now you're telling the universe, all right, universe, I'm ready. I'm letting it go with love. I'm breathing through this. Show me the way. And life will reflect back at you the healing process and how you become better and better. And you're like, wow, different types of people are showing up. Opportunities are showing up. Wow, I feel good. I'm taking care of myself. What are you doing, Rosie? You look so good. I'm taking care of myself. I bought myself flowers. I'm doing all the things that I've always wanted done for me. I'm doing it for me. It's just a huge shift, because I'm not dependent on someone else. Now I'm creating that energy and that atmosphere for me.
How about
I love that.
How about this? Rosie just coming up, and I is, how many people in your life right now, and this is for us and for folks watching that are really identifying with this and loving yourself, how many people in your life right now do honor and value you for being who you are? And because we all have a challenge of opening our heart and receiving love, we don't even pay attention or even lend any energy to those who truly honor and value us for who we are, because we are so frightened and shut down in here, in our hearts, that is a challenge for us to actually receive love. And then our defense and wounding kicks in behind that. And what we really do is yearning after what's unavailable, because that's what we're used to. Meanwhile, all of these wonderful people are in our life, maybe 1, 2, or 3, who are really digging us, who really dig who we are. And I know that I have a few in my life that I'm just really starting to open up to and go, oh my God, holy shit. These people, for as long as I've known them, really love me. And now I'm just starting to get it. So my question to everybody out there is, who's in your life right now that loves you for who you are? And are you able to open your heart and receive that love? And if that's a challenge for you, like Rosie said earlier, one of the most important parts of this, and we spoke about this so many times in Real Men, Real Talk Live, what are you feeling? What are you feeling when your heart opens? What are the fears that come up? What are the feelings? Do you feel As we said last week, and a big breakthrough that I had last week, thanks to Evis, do you associate pain with love? Do you feel when you open your heart space, you're going to be abandoned, betrayed? Because that is what infidelity is.
Jeff Pisano, bringing it home one more Friday evening. I want to acknowledge Sherry Milliken. She says, that's why I've started writing self-worth notes on my bathroom mirror as I deal with this process. I cry in the shower so I can wash myself clean inside and out. I say amen to that.
Amen to that. I love that.
You know, my healing journey started, Rosie, when I gave myself permission to raise my hand and share my story in a very, very, very public domain. And then let the tears begin to flow, because what I understood about 3 months in is that the tears were actually my soul defrosting, because my soul was a block of ice for decades, not allowing myself to feel. Because if I would feel it, then I'd have to learn how to reveal it. And that's when the healing journey for me began. And so I want to thank you, Sherry Milliken, for bringing that forward. I also, J-Rod, who's a friend of ours, Jamie Rodriguez, asked the question. He said, what role does media, he said social media, but what role does media, including social media, play in infidelities? It's an open-ended question, and it's a really good one because, right?
I just have to say, social media, look, it's not about social media. It's not about the neighbor. It's not about the person next door. It's not about the best friend. If your intention is to cheat and you want to open that door, it's a personal choice. You will do that. Whether it's pain, whatever the excuse is, when you want to find a way to do it, you will do it. When your intention is not to cheat, your mind is not on it, your heart's not on it, you could have every single door open and you just don't walk through it. I just feel like it really comes down to a personal choice, where you are in your life. And if that's something that because look, it doesn't start with the act of cheating. It starts with the thought, right? We have to acknowledge, like, cheating starts with the thought. Like you're already with the curiosity, the phone calls, the text, like it all starts with the thought. So regardless of social media, phone calls, whatever, I just honestly feel that when your intention is to cheat, your heart is out there, or you're not with the person 100%, and you find a way, you're going to do it if you want to. You're just going to do it, whether someone knows or nobody finds out. When you want to do something, you're going to find a way.
Yeah, that's true.
So important. I just wanted to ask her, Jay, like, you know, thanks for sharing your story, Rose. Absolutely beautiful, sister. And it just shows where you are currently in your presence, how you're so abundant within your life. And I mean, you know, one thing that comes up for me is some of these tools that you were able to help you through some of those times within your life that has got you to where you are currently today. You did mention you were able to sit with some of these emotions and feelings and actually feel some of these things. What were some of the other things that you could probably help our brothers and sisters out there with?
I think the biggest revelation that I had is that I carried so much shame to say. I remember being, and I this story always comes up for me because it was the moment that I acknowledged it 4 years ago, that there was so much shame around me saying that I was divorced. I remember a woman stands up, she's crying because she's going through divorce. She feels ashamed. She's older. She feels like my life is over. Like nobody's gonna love, you know, a 50-year-old. And when she said that, I was like, hold on, we got to work on that story. We got to start speaking something different, right?
Yeah.
And I just, you know, and I shared with her. Then if you thought that, just imagine would start saying, hey, nobody's gonna love someone that's been divorced 3 times. I'm not worthy of it because I've been divorced several times. And I remember the audience. Some of them started looked at me in shock when I said that. And I'm sitting at Paramount Studios with a group of beautiful women, an audience. And then you hear others laugh like, why the hell did she, you think you got married too many times? Other people laughing. And I just remember sitting there and taking a deep breath. And I said, you know what? Just like you are worthy of love and respect, nobody goes into it with the intention of getting divorced. My intention has always been to have genuine love and respect, but I had to learn to do that for myself. This is a journey that you have to start to do that for yourself. And I promise you, you will attract love and respect. And the person that is with you is not going to care about your past. They're going to see that as lessons that you learned that made you the woman that you are today. They will not shame you for that. So that was one of the biggest moments that I had to really sit and let go of any people's expectations, any people's stories about me, and create my own story for myself, regardless of the laughs, the smirks, the criticisms, the judgments. They were out. I had to create a different story for myself.
Powerful, sister.
Rosie,
Powerful.
I love that you just said that, and because that was one of the things that really stood out with me when you were talking was you honestly realized the secret, and it's not some big aha moment to change. It's that internal narrative that we have, those stories, and you became aware of that, and you started watching those, and you started changing them consciously, and it seems so tiny and so small. My change happened the exact same way. I started policing my thoughts and choosing new ones and realizing that I had control over those thoughts and that my brain just wasn't this automated thing that ran, that I could actually step back and say, whoa, hold on. This isn't helpful, beautiful, and like you, it sounds like your head was a pretty awful place to live. Just like mine was. I was so critical and so hard on myself and so just rough. There was no place for self-love, compassion. It was an awful place to be. And I feel for you because I know how hard that is from the moment you wake up till the moment you close your eyes to have that critic in your head and how awful that is. And so, my heart goes out to you, but I am so pleased that you found the secret and that we do have control over this, and it does change your life. Those thought patterns lead to new emotions. Those emotions lead to you leaving the house in a new way. And like you said, those friends will be like, oh my God, girl, what are you doing? You look great. Or and then you start to get feedback from the world and it just snowballs into change. That is change that we seek. And it starts from within, and it starts with that self-love as well, that even just a tiny shred of self-love and trying to practice self-compassion will help you in catching those thoughts and saying, you know what, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of living with that critic and that awful person inside my head that just wouldn't stop. So amen.
And now that right now that you bring that up, one thing that would also come up that I remember for any of you that are going through painful moments is, and looking to how to love yourself and even finding your health and your mental space, because it's all connected. It all reflects. When I'm in a good place, I'm taking care of myself. I take care of my hair, I do my makeup, I get dressed up, I go walking, I'm eating healthy, I'm drinking water. It's all connected. And I remember that in the moments that I was my worst critic, anxiety would come up, or like they would look at, and I would literally reach out for food to have that aha moment. And then the voice would come back up. It's like, why did you just fucking eat that? You're just getting bigger and bigger. Or why nobody's going to pay attention to you if you keep doing that? Or why are you entertaining this man when he does not match your values? Like, what are you doing? Red flag. And sometimes listening to those voices can make you crazy, but then it's like, okay, I hear you. That's not my truth. Let's put the food down. What's the anxiety going on? All right. So I'm entertaining a red flag. Why am I doing this? What is this saying about me? Am I really, is this person really showing me respect? No. All right. It's time to close the door. That's a red flag. Rosie, pay attention. Close the door. Rosie, are you eating out of hunger or anxiety? Anxiety. All right. Put the food away. Sit down and breathe. I love me. You're going to be okay. Let it go. This is not going to make you happy. Breathe. Learning to understand the way you think and your emotions and that voice, and not just saying, shut up. No. Okay. I hear you. Let's really, what's the root of this? Like, let's figure this out. And understanding that there's all these triggers that come up that lead to that as well. that came from being cheated on and all the stories that I was told about myself and having to change that story. So I really hope that if you're listening, this really helps you understand, because that voice in the head could be very powerful, or it could really bring you down and be very negative and take you to a dark place.
Rosie, if I may jump in here, what I heard you say, if I may paraphrase you, is that the thinking that got us into trouble in the first place cannot be the same thinking that gets us out of it. We have to change our approach towards ourselves. We have to change our strategy. And we can't think our way to a new strategy. We have to do our way to a new strategy. We have to be willing to break the chain or break our relationship with how we talk to ourselves, how we received what we heard ourselves speaking, and be willing to step into a new way to interpret our thoughts. Because our thoughts are just that, they're thoughts. They don't become reality until we keep repeating them and believing them. So we have to stop believing it as the truth. One way that one of my mentors taught me was to ask that question: is it true? And what I'd like to do in this moment, that was such a beautiful segment, Rosie. Thank you for sharing that. Carrie Crary, a dear friend of ours coming in from another city in Arizona, says, this is a beautiful segue to where I'd like us to take this conversation, is we are taught from a very young age to get attention and value from our looks. And we had talked about this in the green room in a production meeting on Tuesday. If you guys recall, we talked about what role does body image, self-image play in infidelities. So I'm going to open it up, Carrie. Thank you for putting that out there. And it's a powerful part of the healing journey. Rosie, Av, you all welcome. You guys all welcome to kind of jump in on this. What role does what Carrie say and body image play into the potential for infidelities, either as a receiver or the giver of infidelities?
That's a deep question. I feel as a woman, as a plus size curvy woman, at my heaviest being 420 pounds, that was used as an excuse against me for being unfaithful. You're a fat bitch, so you know what? I had to go fuck someone else. Just like that. It sounds horrible. That's what I was told. And at some point, it hurt so much. It hurt so much. It hurt me in my soul to hear someone that I thought that I loved in that moment treat me that way, but say that about my body, and then on top of it, act like they were disgusted with me, and that they had to actually go sleep with someone else to find some kind of satisfaction. So I feel that in that sense, I really had to understand that was not my truth. And even as I lost the weight and I gained the weight, that the infidelity had nothing to do with my weight. It had nothing to do with my body. And I really had to understand that my body was sacred and that nobody was going to talk to me, my body, my heart, my soul in that way, or explain that they were being unfaithful because of that, because that was not a truth. And I feel that a lot of women, as we gain, because life happens, you gain weight, you lose weight, you go through pregnancy, you go through motherhood, your body changes. But that is never an excuse to be able to create infidelity. And that's also not an excuse to think that you're going to attain some kind of special love because a certain type of body type or look or beauty that you have. It really comes down to core values, connection, love, and self-respect.
Always think about why you love somebody.
Yeah, Rosie, and you were just saying there, sister, and to have something actually said and spoken to you like that, particularly like you said, as you may have called and thought was a loved one, how did that make you feel?
Oh my God, it made me feel ashamed. It made me feel ugly. It made me feel unworthy. It made me feel like shit. This is all I have. Like, damn, I really screwed up my relationship. This is my fault. It's my fault that person cheated.
Mhm.
And at some point, you start losing yourself as a human being, and the makeup goes away, the hair gets pulled back, the t-shirts stay on, you don't feel like taking a shower, you don't feel like going out. You check out as a mom, you're not paying attention to your kids anymore because you're overwhelmed. I became a shitty mother. Why? Because I had so much going on with me. I wasn't taking care of me. How was I going to take care of my kids? There's so many effects of that. And a lot of people don't want to speak about this, but this is the truth. If I'm not emotionally there for me and I don't love me, how can I show any kind of love to my kids? And then by accepting that, what was I teaching my kids? It's a domino effect. It crushes your spirit, and it makes you want to just give up on life. And it seems like you're sleepwalking through life. It's almost like you become a zombie.
Yeah, beautiful, sister. And I think, I guess, you know, there was a question earlier where we can, thanks for sharing that, sister, beautiful. You know, someone asked about, you know, what sort of role does social media play within this? I guess you could go into that area now, Jay, and say to yourself, like, you know, how we are possibly comparing ourselves to the outside world that we're so fucking distracted from at the moment that I see with many people that I help on their journeys, that they're trying to compare some of these fake images to themselves. And when they get in that way, their self-esteem comes down. Their confidence comes down. So for me, if that was to be projected onto you, why I was asking that question, sister, how was your self-esteem at that time in your life?
At the time of my life when
that was spoken to you, when that was said to you, when those sort of words, I mean, they're pretty full-on words.
I didn't have self-esteem. It was non-existent. Like, I didn't understand what self-esteem was. I just know that I was in depression and anxiety, and it was a reflection everywhere, and I just completely shut down. So there was absolutely no ounce of dignity, of self-respect, of love. I was just walking because God had me breathing. That's basically how empty I felt. And at that moment, I didn't know that I couldn't even verbalize that. You get to a point when that happens that you can't even verbalize that. So it took a lot of healing and writing and journaling to be able to verbalize exactly how I felt in that moment, and to get to a point where I could say that out loud and not cry anymore.
Beautiful, sister. Beautiful. You just gave us a magic tool there, writing and journaling it out. Beautiful.
Journaling is powerful. That energetic release.
100%.
I could take a moment here, if you don't mind, guys, and acknowledge Alexandra says, to any of the men, if you were the perpetrator of infidelity, why did you do it? So I'm going to open it up to any of my co-hosts right here, right now. Are you ready to jump in and answer this question for Alexandra?
Hold on. How many of you have cheated? Let me ask you that.
I've never done it.
Really?
I haven't.
In my entire life, I've never done it.
See?
And here's the
Okay.
reason. Okay, well, here's the reason why. And here's the reason why. And I'll tell you why. From doing the work that I've done within myself, the bottom line is, if the relationship's not working and you're not feeling it or feeling something, you go to that person and say, hey, you have time to chat? This is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on. And to be honest with you, I was brought up with like that, even with a buddy or a woman friend. If something was going on in the relationship, you just walk up to that person, call them, and say, hey, can we chat? Can we talk a little bit? This is what's going on for me. This is what I'm feeling right now. What are you feeling? So your cards are on the table. You're an open book, and you just talk it out and have communication in the relationship with someone. And then if it's not working, you either find the solution or there's no solution, and you say, okay, maybe this is the end of this contract. And now we just close this chapter and move on. That's why I've never done it. I mean, that's chicken shit. I'll be honest with you. It's chicken shit. It's like if you can't open up to someone to say I ain't feeling it, then you better have that cosmic 2x4 across the back of your head. Well, anyhow, I digress.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you better have that 2x4 because a lot of that shit's happening around. I'm so interested to find out why you guys did cheat.
Well, I've never done it, and I just think anyway.
Jeff, thank you for sharing your perspective on that. But you do have two co-hosts that raised their hands.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Josh, Richard, I want to come back to you. First of all, thank you for having the courage for raising your hand, because it's a whole lot easier to do what we're taught. One of the belief systems in this country is you hear men say it all the time, take it to the grave. And you'll hear women say that too, take it to the grave. Do not disclose it. But you just disclosed it by raising your hand. And I'm going to invite you to answer the question very briefly that Alexandra asked, which is, why did you do it?
Well, firstly, I mean, of course, I'm not proud of it. And it was a source of shame for a lot of years. Boy, how to tell it briefly. Well, starting out, I was looking for love and validation outside of myself. So I did not have self-love at the time. And I think we could probably, say that was the root of everything. But I also had a challenging situation. My partner had that ex-girlfriend had some sexual trauma that she did not disclose to me. So therefore, being intimate was a painful memory for her. And she didn't. We were together for a very long time. I lasted for 8 years with very little intimate contact. We were great friends. And I thought friends was enough. I thought maybe I could, that intimate side wasn't as important. And I put some of my needs aside, thinking that I was being the good boyfriend, the good partner. And so I stuffed myself down and not loving myself. And I was starving for affection. And I thought I was communicating that enough. Looking back, I probably wasn't. In fact, we could probably say I definitely wasn't. I thought I was. And I was clear towards the end. I was very clear that I needed more within the last few years. Nothing was changing. So, yeah, I took, someone showed me affection, and it was like, it was like drops of water on a dried up sponge in the desert. And I just soaked that up. It felt so good to receive that, because I had just over those 8 years, I started to believe I was unattractive, unlovable, unsexy, undesirable, because all of my advances would be turned down. And in fact, when my partner would be with me, she'd have to be so drunk to do it. And so that wasn't love. That wasn't two people being intimate together. It was sloppy, drunk sex. And I'm a Cancer. I'm a sensitive. I'm a lover. I want that like closeness. And so it was hollow. It was hollow when it happened. And so it was the antithesis. It was the absolute opposite. And so when that person showed me attention, and you're right, I had a choice in that moment. And, what I thought in my head, honestly, was that maybe it could just be once and I wouldn't tell anybody. And like Jay said, I'd take it to the grave. But guilt killed me. Guilt killed me. And I told her. And it destroyed the relationship. And she said at first she would be willing to forgive me and try. Thanks, Mary. But she she ultimately couldn't, and there was a whole lot of anger and destroyed a lot of things for me. And but it was so, and it was at the very, 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 very end, one of our last meetings, that she told me she was abused. And so, of course, I would have handled things completely different had I known, and not turned that story, like we were talking about, into me being unlovable, undesirable, unsexy. I created all those stories because that was what the evidence in my life was showing me. And so, yeah, it wasn't great, and I'm definitely not proud of that. But
I think Josh, I think it goes back to show that there was a part of you, and I think this is where it's not so much about just the forgiving part or understanding when we're cheated on. It really comes down to that there was a part of you that was in pain because you were so lonely. And it really took a lot of years for me to understand that the cheating had, as much as she had her own traumas and you were feeling lonely, and there was this disclosure of everything that was going on, and you try to hold on as much as you could. But it took so many years for me to just understand that other human being that cheated, now it wasn't right. I didn't deserve that. Granted, was dealing with their own stories and their own pain.
100%.
Josh, I just want to take a moment to just thank you. This is why we do this show, Real Men, Real Talk, because it's not all pretty. It's not all handsome. It gets complicated, like relationships. That's what we do. We're men and we're women. We're people. We have hearts, we have souls, we have needs, we have desires. But ultimately, what we want is just to be okay. We want to be loved and to be able to love. But in this moment, I love you, Josh, Richard. You're such a beautiful man. And I'm so honored to call you friend today. I too am Cancer. I too was born in June. And I too had a lot of choices that I made in my marriage of 30 years that were really, really hurtful, extremely hurtful, shattered someone's heart. And what I didn't know in all those years, and we have different types of infidelity. One of our viewers asked the question, what about emotional infidelity? There's no difference whether it be sexual or emotional. When you are leaning into someone else to feel intimacy that you should be receiving in your relationship with your partner, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend or girlfriend, in a committed relationship. And if you're seeking it outside of your relationship, it's still infidelity. And I was guilty of that. I was guilty of all different types of infidelities. I didn't have affairs, long-term affairs. That wasn't my template. But I too did it for many years. And what I didn't know was what I didn't know. And I didn't know how wounded I was. I didn't know that, you see, infidelities is just a symptom. That was not my problem. Neither was the food addiction I had, once being obese. That was not my problem. Smoking a pack of cigarettes wasn't my problem. Working 15 hours a day for 30 years plus wasn't my problem. Those are all symptoms. Sex addiction wasn't my problem. It was just another symptom. What my problem was that I was a wounded adult man doing my best with what I didn't know, which was zero, sleepwalking, as you said earlier, Rosie. I was sleepwalking through my life until I was near death at age 54 and woke up and asked myself, one of the questions I asked myself was, if today is the last day, am I okay with who I am? And I knew in that moment, as I laid at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, my answer was no. I hated the man I had become. But what I also knew is inside, I didn't know who I was. I had lost myself decades earlier when I was just a teenager. And so began my healing journey. And today, my ex-wife and I have a healthier relationship than I ever thought was possible. Why? Because I I've worked really hard on self-forgiveness. I've worked really hard on changing my behavior and how I show up and being consistent in my behavior with respect and honoring and asking for forgiveness and holding myself accountable and saying those words. I did what I did because I didn't know how wounded I was showing up as your partner. I spent a lot of time pointing my finger at her and blaming her for why my needs weren't being met in the relationship. But ultimately, what I know today was it never was her responsibility. That was always mine. It was my responsibility to have my needs met. And if they weren't being met, if they're not being met, I get to look at myself in the mirror today and ask why. Is it something that I'm lacking in myself, or is it something that I'm lacking in a relationship? And that's where I'm going to end this segment, which is I didn't know that what I was lacking, it had less to do with my relationship with my ex-wife, and it had everything to do with my relationship with myself. I didn't know who I was. I had lost myself as a codependent man, taking care of everyone else but myself. And to that, I say, no more, not here, not today. Today, I come first. So I have more to give to the people that matter in my life. So is it possible that a cheater can change? I know it's possible because I am that man. And I'm okay today. I'm okay, Josh, thank you. I'm okay today. I said to Mary today, we hiked the top of a summit, absolutely beautiful day, about 64 degrees Fahrenheit. We were up there for about an hour and a half. And well, we talked about a lot, but one of the things, I just lost my train of thought. I just got in the moment here. What I said to her was that if anyone said to me 5.5 years ago that would be possible to be in a monogamous relationship where there's honesty, there's truth, there's moral integrity, and there's no cheating going on. Not on my side of the street, zero. And boy, it feels good. It feels good to just be able to honor someone else and love them and have ultimate respect, not only for them, but for myself. And that's why we do this show, because this is where we get to be real. This is how we heal right here, right now. Rosie, what are you making of all this crazy making going on tonight?
You know what I make of it? I think it's beautiful. I think it's authentic. I think it's real. I think this is what I would love to see more men be able to talk from this perspective and take ownership of the things that they did wrong and be a light of invitation on how they created a difference in their own life. How you just talked about moral integrity, about being faithful, about honesty, about all these top values that are so important. And to be able to share that and see men live by that, that is a huge example. So I want to just say, Josh and Jay, thank you so much for sharing your side of what you went through, why you went through, and what you learned from that. And that you not only sit there sharing your story, but you live that in a way that you're empowering other men to say, hey, I did it. I can change. This is how I did it.
Beautiful, Rosie.
And I think so what it comes down to, being an invitation of light and being able to forgive yourself for the things that you've done and the things that you've accepted as well. Forgiveness is huge. It's the biggest part into not only revelation, but growth.
Rosie, the reason that forgiveness is so critical is if we don't forgive ourselves and our loved ones, that dis-ease will, no doubt, 100% turn into disease. Our body is paying attention to our thoughts and to our mind and how we're feeling in our heart and soul. And if we don't learn how to forgive ourselves and focus on that as major part of the healing journey, it's only a matter of time. Our body is going to begin to shut down. We will get sick. And some of us won't make it.
Yeah. And if you don't make time for your wellness, you're going to be forced to make time for your illness.
You got it. Well, we are just about over the hour. This is the time of the show where we play musical chairs and magical chairs. And what that means is the person sitting closest to me, we're going to move the chairs around. When you get sat next to me, You have 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes at most, to either share some tips, tricks, and tools on how to either break your cycle to picking men or women that are cheaters, and or how to heal your heart from the pain, from the wounds of receiving infidelities in your relationship, and or just some closing thoughts on what tonight's experience was like for you in the show. And so what we're going to do is we're going to invite Mr. Jeff Asano to lead us off with musical chairs and magic tonight. Thank you, Jeff.
Hey, well, I just want to start off with, after listening to Jay and Josh, maybe I project a little bit too much into the chicken shit comment.
Is that an apology?
We love you, Jeff.
Wow, guys, I love you so much. So, after hearing that, I heard the other side of it, other than my projected opinion about it. All the way back to the beginning of the show, when Rosie was speaking about infidelity, and what has stuck in my mind tonight is, if that happens, it isn't about you. It's really, really stuck in my mind, and I just wanted to close and share with this, that when you're in a relationship, whatever another person does has nothing to do with you. They may even try to make it look like it has to do with you, where they're skirting their responsibility within themselves. But it's so important when things happen in our lives, in our relationships, if someone does cheat, there is infidelity, to always know that is not about you. That's not about us. That's about them. It's about where they are in their process, and we're not responsible for that. The only person we're responsible for is us. They need to take responsibility for themselves if they choose to do that. So just keep in mind that when things happen in relationships, when another does something, says something, cheats, there is infidelity, that it is not about you. What is about you is you, your feelings, and how much you love, honor, and value yourself. You're not responsible for what another does, what another says, what another thinks, what another acts upon. You're responsible for you. If they want to move through their process and see what they're doing, grow up, nurture their wounded child, I brought it in there, guys, and take responsibility for themselves, then that's their choice. But just know that whatever someone says, does, thinks, or even acts upon in a relationship has nothing to do with you.
Love that. Jeff Asano.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, I want to say, I'm going to just let you know that I respect what you shared. And I was able to receive it, because what's important is that I didn't go to judgment from you to me, and vice versa. What I saw it is that's your experience. Perhaps maybe you're a stronger man than I was. I didn't have that ability to have the courage, because I didn't understand. I wasn't aware of truly what was at the root. And what the root was that it wasn't about my relationship with my partner. It was about my relationship with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Until I had that awareness, that awakening, there was no way I was going to be able to break the cycle or make a change in my relationship at home. I didn't know how to. And that's not because I didn't try, believe me. There was all kinds of marriage counseling and therapy and LMFT and all that stuff, and 21 years of it. But I either had a bad picker, and in all those 21 years didn't have a top professional that was able to guide me to my truth. Didn't happen in therapy. Didn't happen until my body was giving in and was shutting down. But we all get there one way or the other. But I do want to just let you know that I'm okay with what you shared. Do
you guys still love me?
Yes. That's the important question.
I like the cosmic 4x4 one, I think, Jeff.
Yeah. Cosmic 2x4 is great.
Evan, you're really changing it up tonight. You usually are not second in line, but you know what? Why not?
Oh, thank you, brother. And as always, thank you, my brothers and sisters there on the other side of the pond. If you're in there, land down under, make sure, as always, that quick CTA, subscribe to our channel over at YouTube, and make sure that you subscribe to our sister's channel. If these messages, something we've shared with you tonight, has resonate with you, that could either help yourself or someone that is closely related to you, get this out into the collective, my brothers and sisters, because we are in a beautiful time. I keep saying this show after show, video after video that I do on my own reel. And that is you balancing out your own masculine and your feminine energies. Venus has just gone square with Mars. Isn't it quite ironic that we just seem to be having this conversation that where the divine feminine comes with the sacred masculine to try and sort out this idea of what we call relationships? You know, on here at Real Men Real Talk Live, we're always diving in deep, and we have show after show, probably 40 plus shows to be exact, about relationships. My thing is, this whole idea about relationships is really being balanced out. We as a human species are getting the opportunity to recreate or create an idea of a relationship into a partnership that where we can come together to make that two as the one be the one. I keep talking about this for the year 2021. Are you going to be the one? It happens on so many levels. So if you've been cheated on, if you've cheated, then ask yourself, what is that about myself that I've been cheating on myself? What do I need to sort out within my life? You know, when I had that really big epiphany at the start of the week, that sense of abandonment, that feeling of rejection, I went bush, like I said, man. I go into nature, I get my downloads. When I go into nature, I sit by myself, I meditate, I take in those big, deep breaths, and I become one with Mother on the motherboard. What I want you to ask, my brothers and sisters, if you're finding yourself in these toxic relationships, ask yourself about the signs. You see, when we start tapping in to that thing, or probably reflected over here, that thing there called your intuition, and you get out of that logic and mind space, but more so come from the heart space, then we can start asking the solutions and the answers why we might be finding ourselves in these particular relationships. Ask yourself, is there a trust factor? Well, what in my own life don't I trust? Ask yourself, have I been judged in this relationship? What am I judging about myself? Where's the communication? Have you communicated this before the event actually happens within your life? And where is the communication with yourself? One thing for me, when I went for that walk, I was walking with just a young fella, little Ev, the inner child. Ask yourself, my brothers and sisters, do you feel safe? Do you feel secure? And are you free to express your soul's true purpose, your magic, and your gifts down here on the plane we call Mother Earth? Because until we do balance out that divine feminine, that sacred masculine, which is in each and every one of us, then we may keep recycling and refurbishing some of these relationships within our lives until we take a really good look in the mirror. I love my brother Jay the Rockman says, be able to break through to break free. So on that note, my brothers and sisters, thanks for having me tonight.
Beautiful as always, Ev.
Wow. Love that. I'm just taking a moment here just to take it in, just to pause, just to hear it, just to let it receive right here. Thank you, Ev.
Peace, brother.
Josh Richard. You're up.
Well, beautiful night. Rosie, thank you for joining us too. Wow. This has been such a special evening on so many different levels. We've covered so much. And I guess for my closing, I guess for those who may carry shame, who may carry criticisms about any of our own past behaviors, doings, those who may be created to tempt or are tempted to create a story about ourselves around those ways that we may have hurt others or the shames or any of our past. We aren't who we were yesterday. We're not bound to that. We're not chained to that. And that is not our destiny. We are absolutely free to be someone new today. And you're allowed to change. And you're allowed to change on a dime and for no good reason than just you want to. And so I give you complete permission to forgive yourself. And I know forgiveness takes a while and it's hard when you've deeply hurt other people. And one way to slowly move in the direction of forgiveness is to just keep showing up better and better each day, speaking your truth, speaking your boundaries, loving yourself, and being kind and loving to our brothers and sisters on this earth. And slowly over time, you will grow into that new person. And you'll look back and say, wow, I am not that person anymore. And so for me, it was giving myself permission to be someone new and to show up as someone better. And that was all I needed each day.
Josh Richard. That, my friend, sounds like a man who has done some self-forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And a whole lot of shit I'm not proud of.
Beautiful, brother.
No, it's no, it is. Isn't life great?
Good time to be alive, brother.
Sure
It's
is.
amazing.
Rosie Mercado. You're up, young lady. I could call you young lady because you're younger than I am.
Well, thank you.
Like I said, I remember when I was 40.
Well, leaving off with what Josh said, he's done a lot of shit that he's not proud of. I think every single human being on this earth, I just want to remind all of you that are watching, that at some point, you're going to screw it up. At some point, you will fall. And if you could just have the strength to be able to look at those lessons, those moments as lessons, and ask, what can I learn from this? And how can I grow? And allow yourself to feel the emotions, whatever they are. Don't label them as good or bad. Just feel whatever emotions they are. They're part of God, the universe, whatever you believe in, bringing revelation, bringing lessons, bringing stretching, bringing growth. And if you have the courage to pay attention to that, you will come on the other side stronger, wiser, lots of love and understanding and compassion towards others, and less judgment. I think today is a reminder that we're all human beings, and sometimes we just don't know what people are going through. And I think that we can learn to take the shame out of the good and the bad that we do in life, because we all go through that. And we could step into being an invitation of light for others, teaching them the things that we've learned along the way, and showing them the most vulnerable parts of our soul, because that's how we connect with other human beings on such a real level. Remember that you're powerful beyond measure, that we all have a story, that you have a voice that matters, and it is your power, your story, your decision, whether you validate it within yourself to speak up your truth and share it with the world. There's something that you've gone through that you have to share with the world that brings not only healing to you, but brings healing to others. And I think that is what's beautiful about the journey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not every day that we have a woman join us on Real Men, Real Talk Live. So I think we have all just taken in this moment, and not only ourselves, but our viewers, it's a treat. It really is a gift having you join us this evening. Rosie, if people want to get hold of you and follow you, how can they do that?
You could reach out. You can check me out at rosiemercado.com or all social media at Rosie Mercado. If you have questions or anything that I could be of service and just be a helping hand, please write to me. I answer all DMs and just always here to pay it forward.
Beautiful, sister.
Love that.
Rosie, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to invite you to, if you have the time, to spend maybe just a few minutes in the post-production show meeting room with us, just to kind of have a decompress together. That would be beautiful. Again, I want to thank you for joining us. I know you're a very busy woman. You've got a young child at home, a relationship I believe you may be in, and you're so busy. What I love about you and what I've learned is that, much like us guys, you really show up for yourself. A lot of the work that you're doing, you do online. You show it on Instagram. We see you working out and doing all kinds of physical things to help raise your wellness and consciousness in life. And it's you don't just talk it, you walk it, as they say. It's simple, not easy, because there's a lot of coaches and a lot of people out there, whether they be authors, experts, you name it, that they're not quite there yet. They're talking to meet someone that's actually doing the work for yourself, so that your life can, in fact, be go from trauma to triumph. Is just an absolutely beautiful experience to witness as one of your new fans on your channel. And so God bless and peace and blessings. And may you continue to inspire and bring hope to millions of men and women around the globe that are struggling or suffering in their own victim woes, and bring light to their lives as you have done for yourself. And so thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you thank you for having me. I'm sending you guys lots of hugs, lots of kisses, and my goodness, I learned a lot today as well. And I think that's the beauty of life, of always being a student and willing to have an open heart and being able to listen to different perspectives. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be on and for this opportunity.
And I have a feeling we'd love to have you come back, perhaps in a future episodes down the road, maybe later.
In a future episode or a couple more, I'd love to come up and a couple more. I'm just saying, let's speak that out there. I'd love to come back. Absolutely.
Beautiful. Love to have you. So, guys, anything that you'd like to say to Rose before I put my pretty bow in the show?
No, much love,
Thanks
sister.
again.
Thank you so much for tapping into that divine feminine energy of yours and giving us an insight. But to be able to share your personal story is just magic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful journey. Thank you for sharing it.
Thanks, Rosie.
Thank you.
So here's my closing thoughts for this evening. Before I jump in, I want to thank our viewers and listeners one more time for joining us this evening, supporting the broadcast and the podcast. We appreciate you. We love you. And we hope that you heard something in tonight's episode that helps you in your own healing journey if you have been impacted by infidelity in your relationship. Sherry Milliken, welcome to the show. This is the first time I've seen you live. I appreciate you so much. And thank you for joining us. You said we weren't at 16 who we were at 6. We learn and grow. We crawl before we walk and walk before we run. You all have been so powerfully amazing tonight. And I share your post because this is the mantra, one of the mantras I live by today. This is part of really self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others, is understanding that it's a choice to stay making a life decisions that hurt ourselves and hurt others. It's also a choice to break through, to break free. And when we do that, as Evis mentioned shortly ago, we break free to inner freedom. And inner freedom truly is really where we want to be. That's where peace is. That's where inner peace is. Everyone spends a lifetime thinking that what they're chasing in life is happiness. Happiness is just what society has programmed into us, what we should be chasing, when in fact we have it all wrong. In my humble opinion, where the sweet spot is on the inside. It's not the cars, it's not the homes, it's not the vacations, it's not the fancy clothing or the dinners. It's not even the relationships outside of ourselves. It's the relationship we have within ourselves. Inner peace is really where we get to experience what true freedom can feel like, and what it is, in fact, to live a life of inner peace is one of self-love, self-forgiveness, self-compassion, self-empathy. And once we begin to experience that, we show up. We show up for our children in a healthier way. We show up for our friends. We show up for our moms and dads and siblings. We show up for people that we just meet, perhaps in a nature trail or on a peak or a summit climb. And when we have that experience, we get the gift of life, the gift of living, the gift of loving, the gift of laughing. And most importantly, what drives it all is the gift of learning. And with that, I love you guys so much. Rosie, welcome to Real Men, Real Talk. Welcome home. This is your new home here.
Well, you might be needing a lady co-host, so if you ever need one, hello.
Beautiful.
Thank you, viewers.
It was great.
We'll catch you next week, and just start. As I've said so many times before, just show up and grow up. When we have the courage to show up and grow up, everything is possible because we have infinite possibilities. With that, have an awesome weekend. Stay healthy, stay safe, and have fun. Get out and breathe. Get out and run. Get out and walk. Just get out and smile and say hi.